And now, through the magic of television and videotape, if you've noticed, we have traveled by time machine from Pennsylvania, where we taped the top of today's show yesterday, and now we're back to the here and now, back in Washington with former Vermont Governor Howard Dean and Republican Senator Lindsey Graham, who is with us this morning from South Carolina. Well, Governor Dean, let's start with you. What's your take here on what you heard from?
It's pretty much the same old, same old. There was no, I mean, they're asking essentially the American people to elect Mitt Romney without him telling the people anything about what he's going to do. This is a guy who wants to be president. He doesn't say why, but he says he wants to be president. I think he's a nice man. I don't think he's going to be a good president because I don't think he's going to get elected president.
He seems to agree with the principle, in principle at least, with the president on the action he took on immigration, about trying to do something for these children who were brought into the country.
This was a brilliant move on the president's part, because the Governor Romney is on record as saying he would veto the DREAM Act. President Obama just put in what he could of the DREAM Act by executive order, since the Congress refused to pass it. And now Romney's left holding the bag. If he says anything in favor of what the president wants to do, he alienates the right wing, which has been his problem all along. And if he denies what the president says and says it's a terrible idea, he digs himself an even deeper hole with Latinos. So I think this is the end of the road for Governor Romney on the Latino front. He can't win that unless he puts somebody on the ticket who's a Latino. I think he's going to lose that by a lot, and I think that's a bad thing, because most people believe that if you can't get 40% of the Latino vote and you're a Republican, you can't win. He's not going to get anywhere close to 40%.
Senator Graham, what's your take on that? What the president did last week, and now the response we get from Governor Romney, who seems to say, yes, this is a problem, we got to do something about it, but what the president did was just done for political reasons.
Well, I think it's pretty clear that there are 10 million illegal immigrants not affected by this. What about them? I don't think it's a brilliant move when the President of the United States tells a federal agency, stop enforcing the law. I can't ever remember that happening, and that's what they're doing. They're just stop enforcing the law. You're going to have 800,000 work permits issued by a stroke of a pen. You're going around Congress and the American people, and you're doing nothing about a broken immigration system. What about employer verification? What about border security? What about visa reform so we can get the workers we need in the high-tech and agricultural community? The real moving parts of immigration were left unaddressed. He promised immigration reform in his first year, 2008. He had 60 Democratic senators, a big majority in the House, and he did nothing. And the reason he's doing this is because he's got a big speech next week. So I think President Obama's decision here is political, hasn't fixed immigration, is breathtakingly getting around the law, and I think what we've seen by most Hispanics is too little, too late. He had a chance to do something on immigration, and he's doing it right before the election in a very transparent political fashion,
Senator,
which is consistent with who he is as a politician.
Just from the standpoint of straight old politics, did the president help his party and hurt yours? Did Governor Romney, taking the stance he has, help or hurt the Republican Party?
I don't think you're helping your party when you're hurting the country. He had a chance to help the country. He made a promise to the country and to the Hispanic community he would solve immigration completely and comprehensively in his first year. He had a huge Democratic majority in both houses. He did nothing. I don't think you're helping the Hispanic community, who has high unemployment, higher than any other group in the country, quite frankly, by doing something here a few months before the election that doesn't really solve the problem. Immigration is not fixed because this is a policy change that's designed to help his reelection, not designed to fix a broken immigration system. And I do believe it is breathtaking that a president of the United States would say, stop enforcing the law.
What's breathtaking is the Republican senator who had a hand in killing all the immigration legislation is now complaining that the president couldn't get immigration reform through. I think people like to see what the president did. First of all, these are children we're talking about. This has a 90% approval rating in the Hispanic community doing what the president did. So these are kids. These are not people who snuck across the border. These are people who were dragged across the border, went to American high schools, served in the American, in many cases, in the American armed forces. Secondly, the idea that a president who is faced with an obstructionist Congress, where Republicans won't let judges or any other people come before and have a fair, straight up and down vote, the idea that he's going to stand up to an obstructionist Congress, which is at about a 9% favorability rating, that's people want to see that. They want strong leadership. They got strong leadership this week, and they're going to get strong leadership in the future. The president's not going to put up with this obstructionist Congress.
Were you talking about the senator I'm looking at?
No, actually, I admire this senator because he crossed Grover Norquist on his ridiculous tax pledge and actually admitted that we were going to have to raise both revenues and cut spending. So this senator is an exception to the rule. But the fact is, the other 44 Republican senators...
You're killing me, Howard. You're killing me.
Yeah, probably not going to help you in South Carolina anyway, Lindsey, right?
Well, let me, Senator Graham, since he brought up Grover Norquist, let me just ask you about that. What about this idea? Governor Romney, you heard him say he would not accept even $1 in increased revenues for $10 in spending cuts, if that could be found. I know both you and Jeb Bush said this week that maybe Republicans ought to kind of be thinking about this idea of this pledge of no new taxes under any circumstances. What about that?
Well, good question. What Governor Romney said is he would look at Simpson Bowl as the model. And Simpson Bowl, the Gang of Six, the Super Committee, even though it failed, there's a formula that I think will take hold eventually. Nobody wants to raise tax rates. Not one person who's looked at this problem we have as a nation has suggested raising tax rates. But Tom Coburn, Pat Toomey, the Gang of Six, Simpson Bowles Commission, all said let's flatten and broaden the tax base. Let's eliminate deductions. And when you ask him how many deductions, I think we should eliminate all deductions except interest on your home and charitable giving with a cap. Take that money back into the Treasury. It's $1 trillion a year we give away in deductions, and use most of it to pay down tax rates and about 1/4 of it to pay down the debt. That's what Simpson Bowles, the Gang of Six, the Super Committee tried to do, and I'm confident that's what Governor Romney would embrace. And here's the bottom line, Bob. We're not going to get entitlement reform from Democrats unless we put revenue on the table as Republicans. And I'm not going to put revenue on the table as I described without entitlement reform. We know what to do. We just should do it. And we're not going to do it without presidential leadership. So I hope Governor Romney and President Obama will do something before the election to show this leadership.
I agree with that. I mean, I think Senator Graham and I were in the room. We'd probably come to an agreement fairly quickly. He's right. We have to have entitlement reform. I do not agree that only 1/4 of the tax savings from reducing, and I agree with him on exactly the deductions that should be kept too. What I don't agree with him on is I believe 3/4 of it ought to go towards paying down the deficit, not 1/4, because the deficit's a huge problem. But I didn't think that was a particularly unreasonable suggestion that he just made.
All right. Well, gentlemen, I want to thank both of you.